Here we are. We're live. Tora is passed out on her favorite chair because she was out catting around all night, weren't you? She wouldn't come in. Poor little kitty cat with the sleepy eyes. Hi, you. Hello. Oh, she's squinting at me. That's kitty kisses. You want to come say hi to your fans? There, here. Here she is. See, she's all sleepy. Yes. You want to go back on your chair, little girl? Yes, I think she does. All right. Now to make up for disturbing me, you can have some treats. Yeah, there you go. Oh, such a good kitty. Hi, Tim. Let's see. Hi, Sleepy. Hi, Tim. Well, I finally, with an Amazon gift card, bought this here book, The Shadow of Blooming Grove, Warren G. Harding in His Times, by Francis Russell. Now, you might notice that Francis is spelled with an I. That means it's a, let's see, that's a man's name. But my granny, whose middle name was Francis, spelled it that way, even though she was a woman. She said she was named after the swamp fox, Francis Marion. Oh, the woman's spelling ends in ES, but the man's spelling, like Francis Drake, is IS. Well, it turns out that this book cost $50 because it's a collector's edition from the Easton Press, the Library of the Presidents, but it was the only copy I could find. It is in brand new condition. It has gold, well, gold color anyway, on the ends of the pages. Why, you might ask, did I buy this? Well, because dotted throughout the exegesis of Philip K. Dick, he kept seeing this book and he couldn't quite make out the title, but he decided it must be either Budding Grove or Blooming Grove, and he found it in his personal library, although I never noticed it. But his was a book club edition. So he sat down and read it because he kept hearing or seeing this title, Blooming Grove, Budding Grove. I'm trying to type. I just can't type and talk at the same time. There, here we go. He said it was the most boring book. It's gorgeous, and I will read it. What's interesting is that in the preface, uh, of course, this is a later edition, and it doesn't have blank spaces where things are left out. Oh, yes, it does. Okay. That's interesting. It says that there was a restraining order that forced the author to letters written by Warren G. Harding. And for 4 years, they waited for that temporary restraining order to be lifted. And finally, they just went ahead and published it with those quotes from Harding's love letters to Carrie Phillips deleted. Looks like they're still deleted. Yep. I'm just leafing through. I'm not actually reading. I haven't read it yet, but it looks as if there are some blanks with just a straight line because they were not allowed to quote from those letters, even though the people involved are long since dead. Anyway, it's a biography of President Warren G. Harding. The Shadow of Blooming Grove. Oops. Collector's Edition. I'm going to read it, even though Phil said it was boring and a good cure for insomnia, because there might be something in there. And yes, I'm thinking of Bohemian Grove, the notorious camp in Northern California where the elite meet up to cast away their cares. Oh, it has a built-in bookmark, one of those ribbon things. Let's take a look at that page. Interesting. And then it's looped over to another page. Okay, apparently he was for women's suffrage. He wanted the women to be allowed to vote. Interesting. Okay, this will have to wait until I've actually read. But we knew nothing about Bohemian Grove in the 1970s. At least Phil and I knew nothing. So in later podcasts, if I find anything interesting, I'll let you know. But Phil was convinced, I am not, that all his troubles stemmed from his friendship with Bishop James Pike, a heretic, the Bishop of California for the Episcopal Church, who decided to become a Gnostic and to prove that Jesus did not die on the cross and stuff like that. Phil he had this policy, he would believe anything for 5 minutes, but only for 5 minutes. And then he'd give it up. So he did, really take as deep a dive into Gnosticism as he could at the time. But he remained a devout Christian. Even when he got tangled up with that group led by Benjamin Creme, who said the Maitreya was about to reveal himself. Uh, well, perhaps, Tim, but oh, don't make me read Proust. Please don't make me read Proust. He is so difficult to read. Give me a rousing murder mystery any day. Dashiell Hammett, Mike Hammer, whatever. I think Mike Hammer is the detective, not the author, but I don't remember who wrote Mike Hammer. I should take a glance at Proust. I can probably find within a budding grove at least a summary online for free. I don't have $50 to spend. I used up my. It's interesting how I got. I've been getting emails from Consumer Reports. It is a magazine, but I just gave a promising gift. I hold a drawing after each survey for a moment. Anyway, I answered one of the surveys on consumer, but I won the Amazon, and I did not click the link in the email. I copied and pasted the gift card code into Amazon and it worked. So I was able to buy. Phil said that was the book. He found it on his shelf. It had the blue cover. It was a hardcover. Hi, Sandra. Sure that was the book, and he said it was boring and had nothing enlightening in it. But he remained an Episcopalian. He wouldn't go to church. He'd been barred from the rail for refusing to confess that his marriage to Nancy was a sin. He had divorced Anne, but the church did not sanction the divorce. He said he would not insult his wife that way. But, they would have let you can't take communion. They would have let him do it down in Santa. My connection is I would have let him take communion, but he felt that would be hypocrisy. But he did often talk to the priest, first in Fullerton with Father Rash, Rasche, I think. But Father Rash had left by the time Phil was in Santa Ana. He'd gone on to some other church. But he often talked with the priest in Santa Ana. That priest presided over Phil's memorial service, and I was seriously disappointed. The priest chose to read some poem that he liked and not really talk about Phil. He made it about himself. As many of the remaining hangers on and have been doing, oh, Phil was a great guy and blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't have anything to do with him when he was alive. They'd talk trash about him behind his back, but now, oh, we were great friends. Yeah, right. You betcha. I did have the opportunity to meet one of his real friends, Jerry Ackerman, he was one of the poets Phil met up in Berkeley. Of course, by then he was very, very old. He was older than Phil to begin with, and he was in his 80s, but I got to meet him, which was nice. Doris Sauter was a good friend. She's since fully, you evil computer. You evil computer. I just love being told my connection is unstable. Anyway, Gwen Geit Lee, and Doris Elaine Sauter put out a little book, which is a transcription of some interviews with Phil that they taped, not to most. It's very interesting. He was talking in one short interview about writing The Owl in Daylight, and he put forth a potential plot. But in a letter to David Hartwell, his editor, I think at Doubleday, Phil put forward a different plot. And then in a longer interview in Doris and Gwen's book, talks about various things, but not in relation to The Owl in Daylight, just in relation to his exegesis. It's very readable, much more so than the actual exegesis, which is just notes. It is not a finished work. It's his notes, handwritten notes and typed letters. And unfortunately, the published version has left out many of his handwritten notes. But there's a site on Zebrapedia that has images of his handwritten notes, and along with that, he was really influenced by James Pike, who wrote The Other Side, a book about his attempts to contact the spirit of his dead son. Apparently, Jim Jr. had used I think a shotgun or a rifle to blow out his own brains in a hotel room in New York. The young man had drug problems, but the details. All I know is what Phil told me, which wasn't much. But in one of the seances that Phil attended, Phil said, yes, they contacted something, but I think it was even human. He did think it was evil. I got caught. Okay. Bohemian Grove. Minute. Guess what? Lost the connection. Went to Bohemian Grove on war at their ceremony. All of a sudden, I'm having a lot of trouble with my internet connection. He made a video of the what is it? Something of care. I knew the whole phrase a second ago. I've seen it several times. Thank you, Dave. Anyway, they have the night, not in daylight. And the ceremony involves fire and a mock. Ceremony involves fire and a mock sacrifice. And some people say it is not mock at all, but a real sacrifice. You do hear a man screaming. But these politicians and other elites want to stop caring. They want to get away from it all and just eat, drink, and be merry. Well, it's okay to eat, drink, and be merry, but not when you're destroying the lives of millions of hardworking people. No, I'm not thrilled with President Trump, but Joe Biden, he's clueless. At best, he's clueless. Doesn't understand. Bohemian Grove originally was just sort of a summer camp for elites. They'd go there and have a barbecue and stuff like that. Wonder what they're there for. Uh-huh. I keep losing the connection. And how it's evolved. And I always think of it in conjunction with that other meeting of elites called Bilderberg, where they take over an entire hotel, shut it down so nobody can come in without an invitation, and they decide how they're going to run the world economy without consulting you and me, the people who are most seriously affected by their decisions. Oh, and I heard on the news this morning that Lebanon is getting a new government and they're super, super broke. You see, the government of Lebanon borrowed billions and billions of dollars from their banks and they're not paying them back. So the banks have no money. So the people who put their life in can print money, but it's worthless. Sounds a lot like Weimar Germany. You know, when people would take a wheelbarrow full of money and run to the store to buy a loaf of bread before it wasn't enough. So the government of Lebanon is, hurry up, an amazingly wealthy country. But now it's just horrible. And the explosion at the harbor, I've forgotten the name of the city. Anyway, that huge explosion was just the last straw in a long series of not so above board decisions by the government, like, oh, well, it would cost money to move all that ammonium nitrate to a safer place, so let's just leave it where it is. Onofre power plant is almost, it's between San Diego and Los Angeles, closer to San Diego. And even though I'm more than 50 miles away, which is what they say is the danger zone, there's plenty of people who say it's more like 100 miles. Come on. Connection, you evil barrel. We could spell things better if the people in the media would pronounce them correctly. Oh well. Anyway, I can't help it. I used to teach English. I'm recovering. It's a nuclear power plant that people have been screaming about since the 70s. Of course, now that it's shut down, they have to put the toxic waste somewhere, radioactive waste. And they put it in a temporary place, but oh, we will have to move it to a safer place, they say. Oh, right in the middle of nuclear power plant, not San Onofre, but something canyon that is on an earthquake fault, and I haven't heard anything about that one being where San Onofre is on the coast. A huge ocean wave could wash over it and cause problems much like Fukushima. It's interesting. The lives of billions are less important than profits. Type. Oh, I can totally do cats, can't I? There, here we go. Anyway, yeah, at least this time around, most of the stimulus checks have gone to ordinary working class people can spend the money, which boosts the economy. The corporations got bailouts and then gave, oh, you evil computer. The big corporations led them into the financial troubles. This time there, and that really was not the purpose of the small business. There were other companies that did that, and some of them have been shamed into giving the money back because real small business locations missed out because the program ran out of funds. Well, let me say that again since my connection is unstable. Well, big corporations got their franchises because the program have a number of mountains. Uh-huh. Computer. Curse YouTube. Anyway, we depend in the summertime on tourist trade. We complain about the traffic and the idiots, the flatlanders, but we need them and we treat them quite well. City dwellers. We're mostly rural. Um, but we really do love them and their money. And we try to convince them that they should live up here. Or at least get a vacation cabin. So anyway, up higher on the mountain, it's in the winter that they depend more often on the tourist trade. Running Springs at about little over 6,000 feet, but less than 7,000, they get both. There's they had to shut down the ski resort, kind of having small outdoor events like a farmer's market. We finally have a farmer's market down here in Crestline, right next to Lake Gregory, every Friday afternoon. Evil computer. Evil computer. Evil internet. So, we're struggling but getting by, but most of our small businesses missed out on the COVID recovery money because it was all gone. Now, I got a stimulus pay the first, it wouldn't quite work in the kitchen, so it's around the corner in the living room. Thrift shop to look at another cabinet that might fit. This one slid right into the space in my kitchen, but you could. It's like, whoops. Evil friend donated it for me, and another friend delivered it to me. So the trash. Come on. Come on. And not all the way. If something's in the back, I have to get on a stool. I cannot reach the third shelf, even with my left feet. Shelf, the floor of the top shelf is like 7 feet up. I guess a 6-foot tall man could, but he couldn't see what he was reaching into. Oh, Tora's still asleep. Well, it looks like I've lost all of my listeners. Oh, here's one. When it keeps cutting out. And you guys might. Come on. Okay, I've just about had shadow you to go out and buy it. But thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure. And I love